Another uh, virtual water cooler live. I'm Steve White, and I welcome you to this little space of the interweb, going live on LinkedIn and also within my Facebook group, the Managers Who Lead, and also on YouTube. So, a couple of places where this stuff lives. Always excited to be here, always nervous because I start and not always sure who's going to be with me today, but trust that it is going to be good, and usually it doesn't disappoint. Um, and to be honest, I'm never disappointed, or very rarely disappointed, because even in things not going the way you anticipate or you plan, there's always something to learn. So, and I'm always learning, which means something's always going wrong, I guess. No, that's not true. But nonetheless, I'm always learning. I was just on LinkedIn a second ago and saw that Annie Maxine Cook posted our picture together. It was so good to meet in person with her, and we had a great time. Short, but it was just powerful. It's just great to meet in person, and yeah, you start the conversations like you know each other, which we do, but it just adds that dimension. We went to a nice restaurant in not too far from the station in Doncaster, and was able to set up a video. So I'm looking forward to sort of editing some of that and getting some of that out on some of the social media platforms. Just sharing life in our time of life, sharing life in what we do in our spaces, the state of the world, trying to put the world to rights. But as two people who are passionate about life tend to do. We had lots of things in common. One of them was Italy, which was very, very cool, and just loved hearing Annie's stories from her time there, and what she's working on doing with regards to moving out there. And yeah, just sharing stuff that just makes for stimulating conversation, and just shows the power of that in real life connection that you can have from someone that you meet online. And I would 100% endorse, as far as you can make it happen, whatever your circle of travel or influence or periphery is in terms of getting around and meeting people, to do what you can to meet those that you connect with. And it says a lot. It spoke volumes for her spending time and making that trip happen. So very much enjoyed that time with her. Let me just check that this is kicking in on LinkedIn here, because sometimes you go live and you're not sure if you've gone live. So yep, it looks like I'm on there. That's great. So yes, I am. I'm excited. This week has been a fast one, as they sometimes can get that way. Weather's been awful, but that's Lancaster for you, neck of the woods that I live in. The days are getting brighter, which is always a good thing. Clocks went forward for us a few weeks back now, and excited for that, just to kind of have those longer days. And I am on the countdown to being in Jamaica next month. So excited about that. Lots to do. It speaks a lot to setting a vision that you can be consistent with, you can be clear about, and you can be compelled into those 3 C's. I think I shared that maybe last week, or even a couple of posts. Having visions that are clear, compelling, and connected. And I'm very much connected with my goal for being in Jamaica this year. So excited for that and what it brings. water cooler will still be on. Just to, you won't be catching me here. You'll be catching me in my mornings, late mornings in Jamaica time. But just an opportunity to explore. Annie and I talked a lot about that in terms of sometimes people get to they see their life as being very much the same. They settle into the status quo. They feel it's safer. And speaking of my dear friend, I actually met this lady yesterday. There she is. How are you, Annie?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
I was just leaning. I was just sharing. I was just going to lean into sort of the sharing the state that, how people go into that status quo, and with all the excitement around the potential move for me, and then stepping out on faith, exploration, curiosity, and those are eternal qualities that we hope we never lose at whatever
like
age.
Alice in Wonderland, isn't it? We're all still Alice, at least to some degree.
Yes.
I hope we never lose that anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm glad we did yesterday, because today it's pouring with rain here. It's so cold. Wouldn't have been much fun on the streets of Doncaster yesterday.
Yes, we definitely picked a good one, and thanks for getting the jump on that post. I said that I was gonna get mine out, but I got back, and I said I had a long call with my daughter, and then I usually gig on a Tuesday. I play music on Tuesday night, so. I'll get to the post and get some of the clips from our chat. Some gold. There was some gold there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Have you gone back through it?
I've gone through some of the audio. It's interesting. I think there was a disconnect on the video, but I'm going to see if once I pull it down onto my laptop from the phone, that I'll see what's going on. There might have been a cut off at the 1 hour mark. It seemed like there's something. Like the video might have stopped at the hour mark.
Okay.
I'm not sure. And it was quite a big file. It was a 4K file, which
I'm not surprised. I don't know where the time went. It just one minute we were sitting down, and the next it was like, oh, I'm going to miss my train.
But yeah, that's the magic of those kind of connections, and it's like, yeah. It's
could have sat there for another 4 hours, couldn't we?
Yes. Well, the thing is, you can't even. It's hard to even express what it's like, because there's qualities. It's unrehearsed. It's unforced. It's just like you say, you got people people who you vibe with or in your tribe, right?
Yeah.
How that saying goes, but and it's. You find the commonalities, and even if there are differences, you navigate them together. You have a technique of navigating.
They don't become a thing. They're just something that's just there, and you just kind of live with it like you live with everything.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So yes, it's cool. I got back yesterday, and I never told you I booked my flight. So.
Oh, you did?
Yes,
oh, brilliant!
Yes, I was able to get it done, and yeah, the line is in the sand.
The line is drawn.
The line is drawn.
That's a big step forward, isn't it?
It is. It's, and again, it speaks to that whole sort of goal setting mindset, whereby it's great to envision and set the visions out. Articulate it to yourself first and foremost, so that you're congruent with what you envision.
Yeah. And
then articulate it to those who can support, help, encourage. Doesn't have to go out to the world, and doesn't have to go out to anybody necessarily, but usually it kind of helps if you've got a couple of key allies that are rooting for you and can help consolidate the vision. And then you have to execute. Talking about stuff and not doing it is it's not going to help you. So
well, you talked about shippers, didn't you? At least now
yeah,
you know what you're working towards,
yes,
because
yeah,
that's a big thing too, isn't it?
yeah,
Deciding what to take, what to keep, what to throw, and when.
yes, yes, yeah. And then all the nostalgia kicks in terms of, oh, I've had this for so,
Yeah.
I am I'm not a big book collector, although I do listen to I listen to more audiobooks. That's my preferred method. One, it's more accessible, and two, there's no footprint.
Yeah.
The downside is that it is very accessible, which means you read when you shouldn't be reading. I listen to audiobooks and I'm not consuming what I listen to, it's just in my ear, which is not
Yeah.
always a good way to listen to things. And also because it's not physical, you don't carve out the space. Like my daughter loves physical books, and she will rather consume a physical book than she'll go out
Yeah.
to the bookstore and
I
get a
think a
book.
lot of us do. A lot of us like to feel that kind of that entity in your hands, and
Yes.
that's part of your connection with the book, is that you're actually holding it. It's right there in front of you, not just in your ear or on a screen. It's that thing about holding.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can't beat the smell of a brand new book. There's nothing better than that.
Oh wow! The smell of crisp paper.
Yeah, crisp paper, new printing. Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and my engineer brain used to kind of poo-poo that in terms of it's so inefficient. Oh, this paper is just annoying. And then I'm coming around. Well, your book is is an inspiration because that's physically coming with me. It's not to hand to show on the screen, but it's physically coming with me, which is good. And I will experience being in the space and the context of literally opening the pages and reading the book. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. So I'm coming around to the importance of having that physicality. It's like this, right? You can talk to people virtually all day long.
Yeah.
But nothing beats actually being in the space.
Yeah.
And that's what a physical book can sometimes feel like. So that's I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
But yes, marking the line in the sand. That's if you're going to setting goals requires execution.
Where do you think you might have a couple of wobbles? Gosh, am I doing the right thing?
Say that again.
Are you going to have those wobbles? Where you ask yourself if you're doing the right thing.
Yes, and I expect them, and I've had a couple of them. A couple of people have kind of have expressed like, "Ooh."
Yeah, because we're all just really territorial. None of us wants you to go away from our orbit. We all need you here.
well, see, that's the
We're
thing.
all completely selfish.
That's the thing, But again, it's full circle. We're already coming around to the character in your book, right? She's going off to
yeah, she's having new adventures.
New adventures in places, and for me, I wouldn't expect there not to be a wobble, so in that respect, I know they're coming up, and I've had a few, and I do have a. Sorry, someone's trying to call me. I'm just going to mute that. I'll give a message that I can't speak right now. But I expect it, and I prepare for it in the sense that I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's I was just sharing again the three qualities of a good vision is that it's clear, compelling, and connected. And when you've got those three things in place, the wobbles are your natural fear-based systems checking in.
Yeah.
But they don't need to go further than they need to go, and they don't need to turn into.
Well, the key is recognizing them and recognizing what they represent, and being clear about the need to not dwell on that, because you have got those clear reasons in mind for why you do something. But we're all, like we said yesterday, we're all at our capable of massive amounts of negative self-talk.
Right. Yes. Because again, sometimes that's a bit of our status quo as well.
Yeah.
We because fear is much more powerful than pleasure. Because well, yes, pleasure can kill you, but fear, if you don't deal with something that is threatening, it
Yeah,
can
it's a
take you
fight or
out.
flight response.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're naturally kind of leaning towards that fearfulness. Although nowadays there's a lot fewer things that can take us out.
Yeah.
If we can cope, if we can stand up after the fact, then we can get through it as best as we can. So. But yeah, wobbles are coming. Yeah, there's a few more, and I know there's just going to be all of the lining things up, and
Yeah, feeling the
and
fear and doing it anyway.
yes, yeah, and that's most things. Once you start with the domino effect, you get the first domino in place and you topple that, and once they're aligned correctly, the momentum will help in terms of it takes less energy to topple the second domino as it did the first one.
Yeah.
The key is just knowing when to start. Overwhelm is my threat. You're like, oh, if I list all these things out, it's a gazillion things to do.
Yeah.
And when I think about them, interestingly enough, when I think about them, they all get the same weighting.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily how it works.
It's a priority list then, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah.
Priority list, a tick list that then your to-do list then becomes your achievement list.
Yes, yeah. Although in that step of creating the to-do list, like I said, the weighting, there's a weighting of those things on the list, and sometimes it's not even a matter of listing them in the order of priority, because sometimes the actions aren't linear.
Yeah.
So and sometimes they run in parallel. Something has to be done before something else, and one thing may not be. It's a nice to have, and one is a must have, and is a critical path. And again, that's my engineer brain over engineering this thing. I don't have a project management Gantt chart to plan out my move, but I do know there's lots of moving parts. I think what's helping me is actually getting it out of my head and getting it onto paper.
Yeah, that's the big thing, really, yes. Because once it's there in front of you, you can't escape the reality of it.
Well, yes, you've brought it into existence and taken it away from the.
It's no longer just a list of thoughts; it's a list of actions.
Yes, yeah, and then decide to take actions or not take actions, and that's fine. Not taking action is an action, so.
It is. It's a huge thing. Even when you know that it's the right thing, it's still a huge thing. And I think, people sometimes underestimate what's involved in that, because we've done it several times, and when we've moved between the UK and New Zealand several times now, and every time we've done it, it's been a massive undertaking. And you have to also be prepared for not necessarily the exhaustion, but just the feeling of needing to kind of take things really easy at the other end once the move's over. Just be really gentle with your own process of reintegrating into the new environment, because that doesn't happen overnight either. I mean, even a place that's your native home can still culture shock you. And I remember when I was in my mid-20s, I'd lived in the UK for a while, and I went back to New Zealand to visit my family. And I remember going into town late one evening when the shops were all open, And it suddenly occurred to me that everybody around me was speaking in a broad New Zealand accent. I was dealing in dollars instead of pounds. And something just kind of hit me, and I got the wobbles, and I got back on the bus to go home again. And it was culture shock. I was literally culture shocked in my own country because I'd been away from it.
Wow.
So funny things do just kind of crop up and give you those bits of a wobble. But it's really just understanding that the reassimilation or the assimilation into something different or something new isn't an overnight process. And I sometimes think that the older you get, the more time it takes to kind of readjust, because we're kind of bulletproof and invincible when we're young and we can pretty much deal with whatever life throws at us. But when we're older and we've got these entrenched forms of behavior, sometimes, taking a step away from those can be an incredibly daunting thing. And I know you've done it too. This isn't the first thing for you. So you know what I'm talking about. But some of the listeners may not, and that's something that sometimes takes people by a huge surprise. It took me by surprise. I wasn't prepared for it at all.
Wow. And yeah, like you said, and it's I agree that we move around the world in a faster pace than our psychology and biology can handle.
Yeah, sometimes.
We've got jet lag. I mean, and it seems, and like what you're showing is more. It goes beyond jet lag in terms of going somewhere so far away so quickly that you're out of sync with your days, or your circadian rhythm is out.
Yeah.
There's a psychological shift as well, a lag, if you like, or something going on in terms of, like you said, being in a different place.
Yeah.
And then acclimatizing properly, the decompressing, I'm thinking of like the bends. If you're a diver, you've got to come up slowly and go through these areas.
Yeah.
And it's the same when you move. You can't just sort of, it's not instantaneous like the movies, or instantaneous like jumping on a Zoom call. You're in a different place in a different time, usually different climate, and just things take a little time to settle, to catch up.
We expect a lot of ourselves. Typically, we expect ourselves to kind of function. We kind of expect ourselves to hit the ground running in almost every situation, and there can be a lot of frustration attached to the fact that that's sometimes just not even possible or not realistic. And that's one of those times.
Yeah.
So it's something to be aware of.
Yeah, and it catches you at. I mean, certainly, there's things that as you get the phrase "as you get older" kicks into a lot of our discussions because we're older.
Yeah, well, it's the truth, though, isn't it? I mean, certain things aren't easy, and you get to a place in life when you realise there are certain things you can't or shouldn't be doing anymore. Irrespective of how you might feel, that's the reality.
You said I'm quoting you now. 65 is the new 40. 65 is the new 40.
Absolutely. Still 40 in my head.
But it's funny. It's funny hearing my oldest daughter, who turned 30 this year, actually sort of lament aging. She's kind of, I don't know, that's another level of growing up. It's one thing when you got milestones when you're kids, right? They walk for the first time, or they say the first word, or their first day in school, or they graduate middle school, high school, college. They're an adult. They learn to drive. They turn 18 or 21. And I didn't know what to expect when she hit 30. In terms of some of her language is kind of interesting, in terms of like, man, I'm feeling it now. I'm feeling my age. I'm like, oh, welcome. Welcome to the rest of your life, girl.
I must have been about that age when I asked my father, what's it like getting old? And he said, you just adjust as you go along. And I'm thinking,
Great answer.
what does that mean? What does that feel like? And he didn't expand on it. I don't think he knew how to, but it's like, I'm older now than I was when I asked him that question. And it's like, I'm not adjusting very well at all. Thank you very much. I'm going into old age kicking and screaming against it.
Well, yeah, it's one of the things. I appreciate being older. I'm leaning into the identity of being in my 60s. And that took a bit of a curve. I mean, I'm 62. I turned six. It's a couple of years now. I mean, I'm in this decade. It's a magical decade, statistically speaking. It's probably one of the happiest adult decades that we will endure. Again, notwithstanding, people have different situations and and circumstances, but I think statistically it comes across as that one, and I can see why. And it's like I appreciate the seniority. I don't sort of lord it over. I appreciate when people call it out on me and say, "Oh, you're of that age now. You got some innate wisdom because you've just been around long. You don't even have to sort of show credentials anymore. Your credentials is your ID that shows you've been walking the planet 6 decades." And I think there is a responsibility with that. I think in terms of I want to, if I'm asked advice or questions on things from younger people, I'm very mindful of imparting something useful, helpful, productive as someone who is further along, even that we're in the same time, but we're in the same time at different ages and different perspectives.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that sort of generational gap where you can support someone who is astute enough to ask you a question and you are wise enough to help with an answer. Yeah. I think that's a great connection. And then on the flip side, I like just kidding around, like you said. I mean, to me, it is the new 35. I wouldn't even go there. I'm there jamming away. I'm jamming away, playing music with these young'uns, and it's a blast, Yeah. There is no age. You're just in the moment. You're in the vibe, man. You're just grooving. Yeah. And we're just riffing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely am embracing it. And I think it would help the world to be a nicer place if we really leaned into multi-generational consideration, I'd say.
And that's like I was saying when we were talking yesterday about certain cultures really celebrate the older people and they incorporate them into the social circle and whatever's happening, everyone is part of it, multi-generational families and friendships. And, I mean, there's been a study done recently in Sweden where they've put students in to share care home space with the elderly, and it's had the most incredible positive effect on both.
Wow.
So, everybody needs somewhere to live, but it's putting those people together with massive gaps between them, but they're actually discovering a real joy in each other and a real respect and a real fascination for what each other has to bring to the table. So if we could see a little bit more of that happening, I think it would be brilliant.
That is great. I mean, that is great because my grandmother was influential in my upbringing, and that's and I think that's a quality, that's a value and a quality that sort of has stood with me in terms of having someone that is generationally apart from you impart their life experience into your life.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that I preach. One of the things that I'm so dedicated to is bringing forth the matriarchs, because they are so significant and they have so much to offer and so much to impart to, not even just within their own families, but just generally.
Yes.
And we need to kind of be taking more notice of that wisdom and experience and insight. And they've developed a level of empathy and compassion that most of us can really only dream of having, because they have lived so long and they've seen so much. And I want to see more of that being acknowledged and extrapolated so that more people can get the benefit from it.
Yeah, I mean, it's I love the idea of being around being around the future. That you can sort of set your timeline
Yeah.
Through that, and it informs a young person's life to sort of almost future pace through the lived experience of someone older.
Yeah.
Whether it's decisions, whether it's aspects, outlook, things that they were going through at your age.
Yeah, well, the world has changed, and their experiences have been, in some ways so vastly different from the experiences of new generations that it's pretty hard to comprehend it, and that's why I think more of this stuff needs to be talked about so that the younger generations don't lose sight of the history, the influences of history that have made us all who we are.
Yeah.
We were all a product of our own history, but we're also a product of the history that's out there.
Yeah.
And being able to understand the experiences of people who've lived through the most challenging elements of that history just brings a deeper appreciation for an individual's value, I think.
Yeah, no, it's that's a lot. That's profound. There's a lot in there in terms of unpacking that. And even like you say, history. It's one thing reading a book about the 60s or the 70s as a
Is that history? That was only last week, wasn't
it? I can recount that like it was.
We went to a 70s glam night last weekend. We went to see a friend, and he's the front man in a 70s glam tribute band. And oh my God, it was just incredible. Half the stuff they were playing, I'd forgotten. And I thought, oh yeah, I remember this. And we were all up dancing like we were 20, like we were when all that stuff was in the charts. And it's just so refreshing to kind of think back, because we have lived so long and we have done and experienced so much that we forget some of what was wonderful. Even just those little things, and having the opportunity to talk about our history enables us to relive sometimes the best parts of it.
Yes,
we sometimes forget in the course of just trying to survive, day to day.
Yeah, and I said, I mentioned history because it bringing it out of the textbooks and out of the websites and into the lived experience and memories of people who were on the streets of those days. I still remember the summer of 76, which 78. It was one of the warmest summers.
76 was the big heat wave, I think.
Was it 76?
Yeah,
76 then. Yeah, well, I think 78. Yeah. And I was in school, and it was just, oh man, that was the best summer ever. And it was great. It was every day we was out. You'd play out and go knock on your friend's door and ask if they can come out, and you'd be out till it's summertime then, so you'd be out till the street lights come on, so you'd be out for ages.
That was back in the day where you didn't have any responsibility. All you had to do was go home and show up for dinner.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, and no one knew where you were. There's no geotagging, no phones. So yeah, so it's like I said, it is it's a nostalgia that we bring to it, which is fine. And you can allow us to have nostalgia around those things. And there's also just a lived experience. I mean, when I share things like that, I always want people not only to kind of get a feel for how it felt when I was a teenager back then, but also to sort of have them think about their their young adult lives today,
Yeah.
and craft those memories, craft those experiences that will carry them through. And we live in such a high attention content, low attention retention activity. Things happen very quickly in succession, and we can barely understand what's gone on 10 seconds ago, and then we've got the new impulse kicking in. Which makes me wonder how we retain those key memories today, as opposed to when we were growing up. It was a lot slower. Things would happen, take longer to happen.
Yeah.
And therefore they would either mean more or stick with you longer, or just there was nothing else going on. So therefore that one thing in the day. I remember when my friend broke his arm, and that just came to my mind, and it was, there's probably other things that happened that day, but that was the event. Today, everything is it's turned over so quickly that you run the risk of everything being in a blur. And
it's harder to tease those specific moments out of a life that's so fast paced.
And I hope we find a way of doing it. I think personally the only way to do that is to slow down.
And do more documenting too, like just jot things down more. It's like my personal Facebook page. I use that for a few reasons, really. Mostly it's to keep people updated, because I've got friends around the world, and it's the easiest way of doing it, because they're all old like me, and they're all on Facebook. Well, a lot of them are anyway. And the ones that aren't get it kind of by osmosis through discussion. But I also use it as a diary, because I record and mark important things, or things that meant something at the time, because when the memories come up, so many times you remember things that you otherwise would never remember about those times, because we live in such a fast-paced time. But I also use it to record my observations, because it's a tool of my writing. So I record what I see and what my own responses are to that, or I'll record something I've seen or heard about in the behavior of people. And I have people saying to me, well, what do you mean by that? Are you having a go? And I think, no, it's just my way of recording, because I do run around with a notebook and a pen, but I don't always have time to write things down the way I would want them to. So I would just put a thought on there that I can go back to later. So it's a very useful tool. But I think we need to do more of this kind of recording in whichever way we choose to. It's like you recorded yesterday, mostly for posterity. It's going to make you laugh in years to come. And we all have these things that we would otherwise never bring back to mind if we didn't have some way of recording them that would make that possible. Because the brain's the whole process of memory, encoding, storage, and retrieval, we're expecting so much of that process now, and we've got so much in our brains. The filing system is jammed full, and you've literally got to go herring back through stuff like a physical filing cabinet to try and find a memory. And more often than not, as I'm increasing in age and dotage, I'm forgetting more. So if it's written down, I think, and it comes back to me, it's like, oh yeah. and my husband will say, did you know that 5 years ago today we were doing such and such?
I do like that memory feature. Paul Deach, dear friend of the show. Hi, Paul. I hope you're doing well. I'll reach out to him after this. He talks a lot about that, about the memories coming up, because that is definitely a reminder of progress, or a point in time of what was going on.
And it meant something at the time, and it will always continue to mean something as long as you can hold it in your consciousness.
So it's good. I feel like sometimes the technology outpaces our biology.
Yes.
And In some respect, it's not so bad, in the sense that it's not. Technology can do what it's doing. It's when it conflicts with biology in terms of, like you said, overload, overwhelm, sort of having you go down, setting expectations. We don't work like machines. We don't work like computers.
Yeah.
We're not always, we can't be always on. We can't be processing 24/7. And when we try and sort of tweak or hack our biology to be more machine-like, I think that's when we end up with potential issues. Or we use technology to subjugate our biology. We use with the concept of the second brain, and Tiago Forte, I think, is the guy that sort of coined that phrase in one of his books. And it's great. Like you say, you record, capture, process information, and have it stored in a place in a way that sort of offloads our brain is not for storage, it's for creative work, it's for thinking, and thinking isn't storage. So I understand that you can have technology come alongside in that respect. But I know the smarter the phones are, the dumber I feel, right? there's no smartphone that makes me feel smart. Apart from the fact that I've got one, maybe I feel smart because I own a smartphone, but definitely.
It's like sat navs too. You start relying on your sat nav to take you places, you literally lose the art of thinking for yourself, and we're losing the art of map reading. And I think there's nothing better than sitting in the car with the big road atlas on my lap, because I can see a lot further on that than what the sat nav is telling me in terms of where we're going. And I think it's a shame that we're losing a lot of our faculties of reasoning, and just through the convenience of technology, we're forgetting how to think for ourselves in so many areas. It's kind of scary for me.
Yeah. You mentioned Sweden, and I saw an article. I'm trying to think where I saw it, but about, or maybe on the news, about Swedish schools going back to paper,
right,
and books, and playing down the role of technology in the classroom.
I think it's probably just an attempt to reduce the overwhelm, because I think we're all overwhelmed. Even the people who understand tech and even the new versions of it, and the old dinosaurs like me are cantering along behind trying to catch up. But even the ones who are up there and au fait with it, it's moving at such a pace that at such a pace that the overwhelm is almost inevitable, really. And in any way in which we can slow that down, especially for future generations, I'd be all for that.
Yeah,
for sure. I think technology is helpful up to a point, but at some point it kind of turns on its head and becomes more of a curse.
Yeah, I think the part of the premise of the Swedish schools, the article ticked a couple of boxes for me. One, in the sense that they were probably one of the sort of the forerunners of introducing technology into society in general, and certainly in governance and local government, and therefore schools and education. They sort of embraced it, and I think I respect them. I respect the process whereby they can assess the progress and make another decision. I think sometimes people will kind of jump on a decision and go, "Oh, it's sunk cost, and we've gone this far. Let's just keep it around, or let's just cobble it together and make it work." I liked the article from the fact that they tried it, or they embraced it, evaluated it. They've they've seen the consequences of a prior decision, and they've acted on the information from that prior decision.
Right. So the evaluation is
that
the key component of
the
pilot, as it were.
Yes, yeah, and I think part of it was, I think maybe the speed of adoption, and again that's why I keep talking about technology and biology in terms of, especially young minds. There was an element of, oh, we've got to embrace the technology because they're using it outside of the classroom, therefore bringing it into the classroom, gamifying or getting them involved. And then it might have been just the speed of implementation in terms of how quickly they ramped up to make it happen. We can't adapt at the speed of technology. We just can't. We just no way we can physically, psychologically, socially adapt as quick as technology does. So they may have been a pacing thing that made it challenging to bring it in. And then they've run it long enough to kind of see some of the results and thought, oh, you know what, some of these metrics aren't panning out as good as we thought they would be.
Can I just? I'm just going to go and shut the door.
Yeah. Hubby's doing the work there. But
the wallpapering is continuing in the hallway. And there's banging, crashing, swearing.
It's grafting away. I love it.
I barricaded myself in the other room, and himself seems to think it's okay to keep the door open. I think he wants to listen to the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Like, no, that's not happening. Go away. Go away and bang your hammer with the door shut.
So yes, I think
what he needs a hammer for wallpapering. That's another conversation entirely.
Just leave me be, woman. I've got this thing. Well, good. I'm glad he's industrious.
He's definitely that.
He's getting it done. But yeah. So the Swedish experiment, in terms of recognizing there's some unintended consequences.
Yeah.
And also there's probably some articles. It may be worth actually doing a bit of a research on what findings they came up with, because I think it would speak to other education authorities internationally. I know that Australia is trying to get cell phones out of the school under 16 and stuff like that, and people go, oh, it's too little, too late. You missed that. That boat's already sailed.
Yeah.
But if you don't have good metrics and you don't have good hypotheses in place in terms of, look, there's a cost, even if it's late, it's still worth turning the ship, because the unintended consequences are quite high, and they are probably a lot far-reaching.
Well, I know that there's a lot of development in technology that focuses on the now. It focuses on making things easier and faster and more understandable for the now. But in the process of creating it, I don't know how much thought is given to a long-term impact.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the key. What are we setting
ourselves up for?
Yeah. Young folks have. I mean, that's an interesting. What's one of the because you grew up in New Zealand, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering whether there was something around in your younger years that was taken on as maybe a social norm, and you've now lived through it long enough to see the consequences of what was happening at that time. I can think of one, but I didn't know if you had anything in growing up that was the norm back then, and then you go, oh, you know what, we used to do this, and that really bit us in the butt because it led to, the unintended consequences, or the long tail of this was.
I don't think anything happened that was unique to New Zealand, because New Zealand's social structure almost everything, including the court system, all the rest of it is all modelled on the British structure.
Oh, right.
So we didn't have much. I mean, without kind of straying into the areas of ethnic diversity in New Zealand and the impact of policies on the masses of some of the decisions made in support of certain cultures, that's a political hot potato.
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
I think everywhere has that too.
Yeah.
You know, and we have the same sort of social problems in New Zealand as all Western countries have. You know, there's problems with struggles for power and territory and dominance, and I don't think there's nothing stands out to me from growing up there that wouldn't stand out to me here. I don't imagine if I've grown up here.
Yeah.
I think in some ways, respect there may be something to be said about the £10 poms, and like my dad was one of those. You know,
What's a
we went out to
£10 pom?
New Zealand. I was he paid £10 for his fare to come to New Zealand. It was a government driven incentive because New Zealand needed tradesmen to get the country on its feet.
Right.
And this was back in the 50s and 60s. So my dad was a £10 pom. He took me and my mother out to New Zealand. We grew up out there, but I'd been removed from my bigger family. My dad had no family. He was orphaned, but my mother had a big family. I had cousins and uncles and aunts, and I had a grandmother who was still alive. My maternal grandfather was still alive at the time. But I grew up far removed from having any sense of connectedness to anything bigger than just our nuclear family. And so I think for a lot of people, there was a heavy price paid in terms of family connections as a result of that initiative.
Yeah.
And I think we've all paid a price for that. And growing up on the other side of the world. Back in the day, we had aerograms, we had letters, and we didn't have
I remember air letters. Yeah.
You know, it was a long way. It was like almost like moving to a different planet. And the logistics of trying to get back to the homeland were more than most people could manage on the wages that they were earning in New Zealand. And you know, a lot of people went to Australia as well as part of this initiative. So I think that has had a knock-on effect. But I don't know if anyone's ever done any real research into the effects of that. It'll be interesting to see some if there was any.
Yeah.
To see whether or not people felt disadvantaged from having been kind of ripped away from the mother country. I mean, most of us just feel really fortunate to have grown up in New Zealand because it is a beautiful place. But it's like everything. Every decision you make, everything you act upon has a downside and a consequence at some point in your life.
Yeah. That's so true. And there's probably some parallels with sort of the colonies being reached out to come to England. You know,
for sure. Yeah, it goes both ways.
Yeah, the Caribbean calling back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of latchkey kids.
I was one of those too, but not for very long. Not for very long.
Yeah, I was a latchkey kid, and and I'm sure some social scientist has kind of dug into what it's meant, the upsides and the downsides of that time of a child's day between school and parents coming home, where they had that level of independence and autonomy. I was an only child, so I kind of thrived in it. I enjoyed I'm used to my own company, so it wasn't as if I was in a large family or I had to look after siblings, or I was the one looked after by an older sibling. So it was just the norm for me. But I know there's been I don't know, there's been not lashback, but sort of people think, oh, you know, that was a tough time because it's kids were forced to grow up too soon, you know, or they got into trouble, and therefore we had to look after them.
True for a lot, but I think, you know, in a lot of cases, parents didn't have a choice about that. And I think a lot of parents, from what I understand and what I saw around me, a lot of parents made that time as stress-free and simple as they could for the children. And I know that there are many who had to get in and get tea prepared and look after siblings, all the rest of it. And they are the ones that you're talking about, the ones who latterly can be seen as having suffered. At the time, it was just their reality. It was their norm. And I guess the extent to which you normalize that element of growing up determines how you end up feeling about it and how you let it affect you.
It's true. It's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I remember that. I remember the period. I remember the time. I mean, my school was just around the corner from my house, so I didn't have a long commute.
Yeah.
And that kind of played into it being okay. And it felt more like a village raising me than just me sort of trampling the streets on my lonesome. So there is a nostalgic view of it. So yes, but it is interesting that I say latchkey kid and you go, oh, I know. You knew the term straight away, which is
absolutely terrible term. The term itself is awful.
Well, that's when your key was on. Yeah, your key was to the you put your hand to the letterbox, get your key out. But yeah, and for those you have to look it up if you're under a certain age, you probably have to look it up what that meant and all that stuff. And I guess there's equivalents of those eras now. You know, you got the Google generation, kids that grew up that never knew dial-up. Or
good old dial-up.
Yeah, or
we love it.
or a home phone. I mean, it's crazy. I haven't had
the thing about the Google generation too is something that springs to mind for me. The Google generation, the kids who've had phones from being, more or less old enough to read, is that a lot of interaction with their parents is lost because kids these days maybe don't ask their parents answers to questions. They don't ask them for information. They go and find it on their own.
Yes.
And I guess that helps make them, resilient and self-sufficient. But what's it doing to family connection?
Yes.
Whereas if your child wants an answer to something, you can sit down and discuss it. Make sure they've got the absolute right perspective on it, whatever it happens to be. But nowadays, kids maybe don't feel that they need to do that because the answer's just there at their fingertips on their screen. They might not get the right one. They might not get the considered or explanation that maybe should come with love and concern.
Yeah.
They're just getting this AI generated answer and trying to figure things out from there.
Yeah.
Don't know how good that is, or how good that will be for the future.
I think that leads. We leaned too heavily on the ability to answer, and not even because AI doesn't question the question.
No, and if there isn't an answer, it doesn't tell you there isn't one. It will offer you something rather than nothing.
Yes.
But as we said yesterday, it comes with a disclaimer, doesn't it? It may not be right. And then where are you if you don't know? If you can't trust what that tells you.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I mean, I liked my girls asking me questions, and even if I was the one researching it, or we go and find out together. Or it would prompt another question, and I got someone saying, "Good, I don't know who this is." It just says LinkedIn user. Hi, jump on the link. The link is in the comments if you're around. I'll be packing up shortly, but just come in and say hi. I'm not sure who that is, but I just put it up on the board on the screen there. Thank you for checking in. Yeah, it is strange because I think we got so hung up on the question. Schools want the right answer, and then it was all about you got kudos for the right answer, and then you have technology being able to answer things for you, and then the unintended consequence, like you just said, is that you lose connection. you lose the nuance and the context of why the question came up at this time in this way.
Yeah.
And is it the question, is the answer what you really want, or is the question you want qualification of the question that you're asking?
Yeah.
So you ask a human that says, oh, that's interesting, what brought that up for you, or what are you feeling, or
the opportunity to understand the origin of the question and the thoughts behind it, or the confusion around it, is just we're just cut off from that.
Yes.
In that scenario.
Yeah. And I guess it's the platforms don't mind that, because they live off the second question and the third question and the fourth question. So like you said, it won't say I don't know the answer, so you stop asking and you go ask a person. I would love AI to tell me who to ask in person.
Yeah, for sure. But I actually feel that there's an awful lot of pressure on parents now to try and impress upon their children that, you know, the family should be the first port of call when someone's curious about something or needing an answer to a question. They've got to make that point now, whereas in the past they didn't have to, because it happened naturally and organically. And you know, you kind of got a sense of where one another was at by the questions that you were asking. Yes. and being expected to answer.
Yeah.
But a lot of that is gone now. So I think, you know, I feel a bit sad now for parents who have to work that much harder to keep those connections.
Yes.
Because I think you can only argue so far that the parent has caused the problem by giving the child the phone and the access to the internet. But it's a much, you've got to look at it in a much wider context than theirs are doing, and all of that stuff too. And it's I don't know. I mean, it's more of a battle now than I think it ever was to stay connected, even within families, not just within friendships and distance and all the stuff that we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
It's, you know, even closer to home now, it's a battle to keep those connections going and keep them strong and keep that level of understanding within a family of where everyone's at.
Yeah. And not leaning so heavily on it. It was, I mean, again, we grew up with computers and the transformation. We saw the transformation, and you know, because we're pre high speed internet folks.
Absolutely.
Dial up. And you had to turn, you know, if you wanted to play a video game, you had to turn off the main TV and plug in the console to play the game, which again, that was interesting, because technology came into the home first, and it's like, I guess it must have been like back in the days when radio first came out and people would gather around the radio for a radio show. That's that's before me. TV was like that, broadcast TV. You had 8 o'clock on a Thursday was Dallas, and you know, and 7 o'clock on a Friday was a Y50. You know, and you just knew you had to.
The whole household routine revolved around it.
You had the radio times on the side of the thing, you know. But it was technology coming into the house, into the home, and the home members gathering around it, like you gather around a fireplace.
Yeah.
And then it flipped to personal. It then became, I want a machine in my room. I want to, you know, and then it went from a machine in the family shared space to a machine in personal space.
Yeah.
And then now to a mobile device that is, you know, you will turn around. You can be a mile from your house. You'll turn around to go get your phone. You know, if there's nothing else that you carry with you, your phone is the thing.
Everything.
Yeah. And I think that shift again, it's not led to isolation necessarily. I think there's a lot of good things that come out from connecting with those devices. But there is that element, like you say, just, you know, you
disconnect.
I see people in the same room all on their phone. Simon Sinek had a video he shared about, you know, just the influence of having a phone on the table.
Yeah.
Even if it's down, even if it's off, having a phone visible when two people are talking has a very marked impact, because there's a part of their psychology that is anticipating something happening with that device.
Yeah. So the full attention is never quite there.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think we're all guilty of that, aren't we? Because it's become a habit now. We're so habitual with that now. Is that's the first thing you check before you
yes.
leave the house. Have I got my phone? You know, it's not have I got my key to get back into the house. You know, I lock myself out. It's okay because I've got my phone.
I can phone someone to get into my house, but if I
Yes.
if I leave my phone and
Then I'm in deep doo-doo.
dear, dear, it's crazy, but yeah, this is great. It's there's a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom here. I hope people can take away from this chat today that you know, the 60s are the new 40s, and it's not just old people trying to stay relevant and young. It's old people, it's older people recognizing that they are still valuable.
Absolutely.
They're still valued and valuable, and that doesn't have an expiration.
No.
And so, you know, we shouldn't treat ourselves like that, and we shouldn't tolerate or accept people treating us.
Well, they're very powerful social stereotypes, and it does take energy and stamina to stand against them. But I think we do have to keep doing that.
Yeah, 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 and we totally did that. We were like a couple of teenagers at Doncaster Station.
Yeah, racing around the streets, tearing up the streets, causing mayhem. Then we almost got thrown out of a cafe because we were the last ones there, and they were waiting to shut the doors. I've been thrown out of cafes before, actually, so it kind of doesn't to how absorbed you are and in one another's company that you just fail to see that no one else, you know, they've all gone. It's like, oh, where did everyone go? And they're all looking at their watches and saying, well, okay, you should go too.
I think they wanted to close. I think they probably closed for their lunch and open in the evening or something. Maybe.
Maybe.
So that was special.
So funny.
But Annie, thank you so much, Annie, for jumping in. Thanks for sharing the post. I really appreciate it. I'm going to share some nuggets from that, and I'll get you some of the content from.
Can I just say before we wind this up that anybody who's listening to this, don't just lie there and listen to it or sit there and listen to it. Just jump in.
Yes.
Let's see a few more faces and have a bit more input.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes this thing so fantastic. People just chipping in and, you know, letting us all see their perspective on life, and that's what keeps us connected, and that's the biggest thing.
That is so true. That is so true. Yeah, make the time, take the time, and yeah, it matters. Yeah, you don't have to come in and drop in and say hi. Don, hope you're doing well. I know he's been battling a health. He's recovering from a health issue.
Right.
And some of my regulars are out and about. So if you're watching this on the replay, jump in. Like Annie says, connection is key. Connection is king. And you're never too old. Queen. Oh, sorry. And you're never too old for Rome.
never too old for Rome. Meet me in Rome.
You'll have to ask us individually about that.
Yeah.
All right, Annie.
May not tell.
You got to join the water coolers to find out more. Annie, thank you for your time this afternoon. Have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, you too, mate.
And we'll catch up soon. All right, then. Okay,
Come
thanks
on.
everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.